mentally prepared.
Welcome back to ARC Prepping. I'm glad you're here. Before I get started, I want to just say thank you for everyone that's been subscribing. I'm really excited, and even for those that have been sending me messages, I've been getting messages already asking me questions and on certain topics. And for those of you following me on Instagram, I really appreciate it from the bottom of my heart. This has kind of been like one of those things where I I've been wanted to do something, and I just never, I never pulled the trigger, so to speak. And but I'm glad that I finally kind of got that first video out there, because now that I got that first video out there, now it's kind of like, well, I have to keep this going. And one thing that we learn in life is that the first step is always the hardest. So, the first step for me was creating that first video of you all seeing me and putting myself out there. So I'm glad that that's over with. So, really quick here, for those of you that don't know, if you haven't seen the intro video, I'm just gonna go through it really quick, okay? Uh, but late 2019, early 2020, my family and I were court ordered to stay indoors for 2 weeks. That's right. Sheriffs came to the house. They had no idea what was going on. They just came to our house. They gave us a quarter papers. They put it on the windshield and they said, "You go ahead and sign it." And it was one of those like, huh, moments. Uh, it's like, or it's kind of like, it doesn't really hit you until later on. And I realized, once I came inside, started cooking and figuring out food, and I noticed and I realized, like, man, I don't have this and I don't have that. I need groceries. And it didn't come to mind to ask the sheriff, well, what if I need groceries, right? Because they told me you can't leave your home, right, for 2 weeks. If we catch your vehicle, if we catch you outside your home, you're gonna be arrested and you're gonna be fined. So I'm kind of like, okay, well, I don't have 2 weeks worth of food, so what am I supposed to do? And you're talking about it's me, my wife, and then I have our three kids, and I don't have enough water. I don't have enough food to sustain for 2 weeks. So what do I do? And I called HEB because HEB was starting the curbside and they were starting the delivery. And I'm like, well, maybe I can get in on this. Found out that they're only doing it for senior citizens. But, it was God's grace, favor, and mercy because my aunt lives across the street and she was getting food delivered to her. So I made a list and I told her, "Yeah, I need you to go ahead and buy these items for me, and I'll give you the money." And I did that, and she went ahead and she would come and deliver them here to my front door. And that was just a huge blessing. But even through the whole uncertainty of what my family and I were going through, I could see God's grace, just God's love surround us and be with us, because I would have family members that would come and, out of the blue, not even like telling us, and just drop off bags of groceries in our front door. And they ring the doorbell and then they give me a call. I'm like, hey, just drop off some groceries. And it was perfect, right? Like it was sweets and it was, chips and pretzels and fruit and vegetables, like all sorts of stuff. And so it was nice because our kids got to still enjoy, right, the snacks and things that they like, and not feel like anything different was going on. So, at that point, realizing like, hey, if you have the right amount of food that you're needing or that you like or you enjoy eating, if you have enough of it to be able to sustain you, it kind of makes everything kind of go a little bit easier. So going through this whole process, it kind of like it flipped a switch in my mind, and it was just one of those things of, I don't ever want to be caught off guard. I don't ever want to be caught, like the saying, my pants down. It's to be prepared is so much better than to try to prepare or try to figure things out at the last minute. Um, so the reason why I started art prepping, the reason why is because, I want to be prepared. I don't ever want to feel like that ever again. And, and during this whole time, like I was mentioning, it was so uncertain, right? Like no one knew what they were doing, right? The county had no clue what they were doing. No one knew exactly how to tackle this issue, this problem that was going on around the world. And I remember the sheriffs when they came in, or not in, but when they came to our property, they were wearing masks, they were wearing gloves, and when they put the paperwork on the windshield, they're like, "Just wait until we leave, until we back up for you to grab it." Like they didn't even want to be anywhere near me, so they were probably about like 20, 30 feet away from me. After they put the paperwork on the windshield, then we got it signed, put it back in the windshield. Then I took a step, I took steps back. They got it, but no one knew what was going on. And that was just a little cause for concern, because it's like, man, that was like really quick. Like, we just found out, automatically show up. So no one knew what was going on, and a buddy of mine was asking, like, man, like I was really curious, who are the first ones that were affected, right? Like, how do they handle things, right? Because things change from like when it started from where I'm at all the way to where it is now. Like, there is so much information that has come up, right? So during this whole time of uncertainty of what we were think of what was going to go on, because we really didn't know how it was going to affect us. um I felt in my spirit, the Lord telling me that I needed to act out in faith, like the Passover. And what is a Passover? The Passover was, in the Bible, if you read the Passover, they would get blood, and the blood would be, they would paint blood over the doorpost, right, where they're living, and the blood over the doorpost would protect their firstborn son. And you know, when the Lord was leading me to do that, what came to my mind was, yeah, that makes sense, because we're covered by the blood of the Lamb, by the blood of Jesus, right, our Lord and Savior. And so when it came to mind, I was like, well, I mean, I don't have blood, and even if I did, that's that's still pretty extreme. But I had olive oil, and so I decided to get olive oil, prayed over the olive oil. And I said, Lord, I ask that you bless this olive oil. You have, I believe that you have, you're speaking to me and you're moving me to be able to do this. And so I'm acting out in faith. And so I went ahead and I did the side door, and no one can see me right on the side door. But when I go out to the front door to do it, as soon as I walk out, my neighbor's having a party. They have 20 people out on the lawn, and they can all see me. Like, it's late at night, right? But my lights are on outside, and they have like a clear visual sight of what I'm doing, of what I look like. And they must have thought I was crazy at 10 o'clock at night, going over the doorpost, with the brush and going across, and with olive oil. And they're kind of like, man, this guy's painting at 10 o'clock at night. Like, this guy's got to be crazy. And it was one of those humbling experiences, right? Because yeah, God is telling me to do something, right? I feel I'm being led to do something, and I must look crazy to everyone else, but I know what I know. Like, I know what I'm feeling, I know what I should be doing. And so, by acting out in faith, it was one of those things of like, Lord, I believe that, my family is not going to be harmed, no sickness, no death, no disease, can overcome the blood of the Lamb. And so, just by believing that, it was just an amazing experience, just God's grace again. It's like I mentioned earlier with the food, just God's grace, favor, and mercy, His love, just being poured out to us, was just amazing. And I kind of wanted to just share that because there's a lot of things that happened, with us, through this whole time period. But you know, it was just very eye opening. So during this whole process, right? Um, I after everything happened, I do remember a time where, and just to kind of give you an example, what happened here locally, and if you're here in the area, for those of you that know me, um, uh, that are familiar with me here locally, friends, high school, whatever, everything, right, coworkers, you guys are gonna remember here a couple years back, but a couple of the cities here ran out of water, and this was a time where, like, people started panicking because there was no water to wash your clothes, no water for drinking, no water for anything, right? So I remember one of the cities was pretty much all of the cities were passing out bottles of water for people because they didn't have anything. And I remember driving home, and on my way home, as I'm at a stoplight, I look to the side and there is a Watermill Express, and I remember seeing a line of people waiting in line to fill up their store-bought gallon jugs from the convenience store, or the 5-gallon, jugs from, one of the stores. And I remember people just waiting in line, and what I remember is people putting their jugs in, pushing the button, and there's no water. Like, no water's coming out. Um, Absolutely no water. And it broke my heart because I can't imagine, man, my family is thirsty. My family needs water. I can't find water at the store, right? And we already ran out of the water that the city gave us, right? So can you imagine not having any water to drink? You have no water coming out of your faucet, right? It's not clean, it's not safe. Um, what do you do? So that was a time where, we started prepping, and at that time I decided to have water already. So we had five-gallon jugs of water. So my family, there's five of us, okay? Um, and so what is said is a gallon a day per person. So if I have 5 jugs and each jug is 5 gallons, that means each and every single one of us can have water for 5 days, and that's it, and we're done. So we were somewhat prepared a little bit, but I can't imagine, what it would be like for other people. So the question is, what about you all, right? Like, if you just take 5 minutes and you just go through your cabinets, right? You go to your kitchen, go to your pantry, and you take a look at what you have, right? With what you have right now, how long could you last, right? That's the big question. How long could you last? Um, so we're going to be diving into water. We're going to be diving into food. We're going to be diving into medical supplies, right? These are the three top areas where you need to make sure that you are completely covered. Medical, because, the hospital is overrun and so is the emergency room. You need to learn and know how to treat certain wounds, have the right, ointment, antibacterial ointment, to be able to, because even little scratches can get infected and turn into even something even bigger. Okay. Food wise, we're going to talk about mylar bags, storing rice in mylar bags with oxygen absorbers that can last up to 25 years. You can do it once, put it away, and if you need it in 20 years, that rice will still be good. If you need whatever it is, the coffee grounds that you stored, that will still be good later on in life, right? I want to talk about pressure canning, right? Pressure canning is being able to store food in mason jars, and this food does not have to be refrigerated. Now I'm talking about meat, I'm talking about chicken, I'm talking about making roast, right, with potatoes and carrots, because when all hell breaks loose, right, it's one of those things, or when war happens, right, and you can't leave your home, you can't go out of the store and get meat, right? Or electricity goes out, right, and you have no refrigerator and no more deep freezer. What meat are you going to eat? If you can't go out and all these items go to waste, what are you going to eat? So these shelf stable meats, it's perfect. We did our first batch, and the first batch that we did 15 jars of chicken, with salt and pepper. Um, we opened it, I believe it was at 8 months that we had it on the shelf, just sitting out in the shelf for 8 months. We opened it up, we tested it, we even made like a cold pasta with it. Kids couldn't even tell the difference. It tasted good. It tastes just like canned chicken. So if you go to the store and buy canned chicken, if you tried that before, that's exactly what it tastes like. Okay. So and then we're gonna be talking about water. Okay. And things about water is we're gonna be talking about, like, I have these potable aqua for water purification, right? We're gonna be going through over this, and what I want to do is I want to do a testing on, right, what about all these different water filters, what we're going to be doing. We're going to be going and testing the Berkey system that I have, compared to using this, and then we're going to get a water tester and test that out. But our main focus too is going to be the prepper books. Okay. The majority of the time we get these prepper books, and we either we save them because we want to have them for later on, in the future when something happens, right? But the thing is that if something happens and we don't know how to do it or how to solve it right then and there, how long is it going to take you to actually figure it out, right? It's like, okay, I need to try to heat my house, what can I do, right? And then you're trying to flip and you're trying to go through the book and you're trying to figure it out. Well, I want to go through one of these books, okay, and I want to take a look at what we can do, right? Like, I believe it's this book or another or one of the other ones, of how to create your own generator. So I want to test these things out. How easy is it to do? And and then we're gonna test out some other things too. I know someone sent me a message regarding radios, and we were talking about radios, and I told him, yeah, I have two radios, and he was kind of like hesitant. He was explaining, was like, yeah, I've heard that they're a little difficult to program, and I'll be honest with you, I told him, I didn't even program it myself. I had another buddy of mine that came over, programmed it for me. So I want to even maybe try to get him on here and kind of just show you all, right, how to program the radios, maybe testing the distance, because I even got a longer antenna to get longer distance with that. So we're going to be diving into a lot of things, guys. We're going to be diving into when the grid goes down, you want to try to communicate, you want to be able to have your food and your water. When it's all said and done, you need to make sure that you can take care of yourself and your family. Okay. But here with arc prepping, we're a community. We're going to be learning, growing, and building together. All right. I welcome you all to the arc. Thank you once again for joining in. Y'all have a blessed evening.